By my watch here, it's 4:02. We have a quorum, so we'll call the meeting to order. Again, this is the second of what will be 4 meetings by the West Tisbury Finance Committee to review the FY 2020 budget. Just for those, everyone here knows who we are, but for the people who are watching out there, I'm Gary Montrell, I'm the chair of the committee. I have Greg Orcutt is the vice chair, Jane Dreeben is member, Doug Ruskin, and Chuck Hutchinson, and that's our complement. Shivani Patel there is our admin assistant. I think we know who all of we are, but when people come in later, I hope they'll introduce themselves so we can, if you have a question, if you don't know who people are, if you just say Shivani. Okay, so the first budget we'll be looking at tonight is going to be the Shellfish Department, budget number 298. Please.
Me?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know anything about the budget, but I know about the shellfish in the pond.
Well,
Does everyone know Ray?
Enough to start.
This is Ray Gale, our shellfish constable.
Thanks. Ray, thanks for coming in. Interesting, I read the minutes from the last meeting, kind of interesting, some of the things that are going on in the pond. I had no idea about some of the issues you were working with. I guess, let me say, is there anything in particular you want to highlight in the budget, or shall we just go directly to questions from the committee?
Directly to questions, yeah.
Okay.
I think the big change is we want to have an employee of the Board of Selectmen. Tisbury Great Pond is a very important resource in the town. And I don't think the town has been paying enough attention to it. I'm not exactly sure how to pay more attention, but certainly getting an employee who can help John Hoy particularly with the oyster business and taking tests and getting the boats is a start.
How was this done before? Was it just helter-skelter? People kind of came in, did a part, did it for free, somebody hauled it with his truck, somebody else came in, and is that?
You may be familiar, but back in 1904, the state legislature.
1904? Yeah.
Yeah, just like yesterday.
I know I look old, Ken, but it's even before my time.
It's even before his time.
They granted the proprietors of the Great Ponds on Martha's Vineyard the right to form a Riparian Owners Association. And that was formed for Tisbury Great Pond, and it's composed, and they have been meeting on a fairly regular basis. I happen to be one of the appointed commissioners, or elected commissioners, of the Tisbury Great Pond Riparian Owners Association. We meet every year. We have money. We charge dues from the people around the pond, about $100 a year. And the commissioners, myself, John Hoy, and Will Whiting, decide when to open the pond. And that's based upon a number of things, not the least of which is the complaints of the riparian owners about the pond supply. But one of them certainly is letting the herring into the pond at the right time. We have to be careful about the beach. It's a barrier beach and there's birds there. We have to talk to the Audubon Society about what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. The Corps of Engineers has gotten into it the last few years because they were looking for munitions down in the eastern part.
I remember that.
So they're still kind of involved. So the riparian owners basically have provided the money and the personnel to manage the pond. But we're always concerned about the condition of the pond, particularly as far as the shellfish are concerned, because that's a major, I'd say a major industry. There's $50,000 or $60,000 a year in shellfish in the pond, and it's shared not just by West Tisbury, but by Showmark also, because they own the western half. So I think we should all be more involved and getting more involved in the operation of the Tisbury Great Pond. And not least of which, because of what the state's going to say. As you know, the 1972 Clean Waters Act gave the federal government responsibility for making all the water clean. And since Tisbury Great Pond is classified as a navigable waterway, they said you got to meet certain standards, and they've given that responsibility to the state DEP, who in turn is checking, then, among other things, the nitrogen level and so forth to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And so there's a lot of pressure's mounting on the pond, and I think that the town of West Tisbury should be ready to respond, say, here, you know, we're
So
doing
this,
this.
this is the position we've added here. This is the 20 weeks a year, the
Yes, part-time,
three,
yeah.
step two, part-time. So it'll be year-round, will that person work, or will it be just,
In the summer.
but I mean, how will that be divided over the year? Just the
Certainly
summer?
in the, yeah.
Just the summer
I
months?
can take it in the fall, winter, and early spring.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have, I mean, what I get paid, I gotta make a living. So I do my, thing in the summertime, which is, we have to put, we get seed from the hatchery, which has to be put into cages, grow out cages and all that. And I just can't put the time in the summer, because I've gotta make a living.
Sure.
So,
In answer to your question, we don't know exactly what this person is gonna be doing,
Okay.
Okay, that was,
but certainly he's gonna be helping Ray in the summertime do the stuff at the shelter.
I mean, I can devote some time, but not many days in the summer.
go ahead, Joe.
I can fill in some blanks. I'm very close to Chilmark's shellfish propagation, and this is specifically for shellfishing. And they have 2 full-time people,
Yeah.
one 40-hour week, one 30-hour week, and they manage Menemsha Pond, Quitza Pond, and Tisbury Great Pond. They work with Ray on oysters in Tisbury Great Pond. Oysters are not only a commercial business, they're a great recreational business for everyone. And 1 2-inch oyster filters 50 gallons of water a day. And they really help naturally clean the water. And that's why it's so important to keep a healthy oyster population in the pond and to constantly propagate it and do what it takes. And it's getting more and more challenging because the pond gets warmer, we have more algae to deal with and things like that. And that's why Chilmark beefed up its staff, and I personally think this is a very reasonable next step for West Tisbury, because we have half of that pond.
Greg, you had a question?
Yeah, you answered most of it. Do we have an active commercial fisheries right now in the pond?
No, we have it shut down this year.
Okay.
Right.
This is the first year we've had it shut down quite a few years. And we put a lot of seed out, and the seed seems to be dying. And
Yeah.
so, and we put seed on a productive bottom in hopes that it would, it is a productive bottom. You can't dump it on mud or
Right.
it will just die. So we put the seed on productive, which is usually productive bottom. So we kept it closed so the drags wouldn't hurt the seed, although the seed is dying anyway, so. We've got a definite problem in there as far as water quality.
And we cooperate back and forth with all the different departments on the island. Eggertown and Chilmark and Gwinnett.
Particularly the shellfish hatchery.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll have a meeting next week. Emma Green Beach is coming up to tell us about diseases and so forth. Yeah. So we're trying to stay on top of it, but.
I just want to make sure I got right what the additions to the budget are, just to highlight them where they are. The rentals and leases, I'm assuming this is for the Flat Point location that you're talking about putting some equipment at, or putting the boat at?
Yeah, we were talking about an upweller. It has to have electricity, and the only place there's electricity is at Flat Point Farm. I think Chilmark put a upweller there a few years ago. You need electricity. The upweller forces water up
Right.
in through the baby oysters, and they grow a lot quicker.
Right.
They're getting a lot more.
Yeah, I've worked with Jack Blake out on his barge out there.
Yeah.
I think he actually had a hand in designing the equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the 2,000 in the rent, under 5270, that's for
That
rents and
was an
leases.
estimate, they were hoping to work something, there's nothing worked out.
Okay, but that's a placeholder for that cost.
Well, I think we were talking maybe next year,
Yeah.
maybe a upweller,
Okay,
and talking to Arnie, see if we can rent,
right.
the spot where the
Mhm.
upweller was before, because you
Or
need
use-
electricity.
The town, as you probably know, does not have access to the Great Pond.
Even on Sepiesa,
Yeah, but no
Land bank.
electricity.
no,
That's
there's
land
no
bank.
electricity,
Yeah,
it's
we
true.
need electricity unless we want to pull a whole
Right.
thing down there, just for an upweller.
Then 5,300, that's this is professional technical services, I'm taking it from, I went back and read your notes and the minutes of the meeting. Checking, that's for sort of lifting, hauling, spreading, mulch? Could you tell me what mulch is?
Yeah,
Culture is shell
Okay.
that we put in the pond, and when the oysters spat out, the spat has to sit on something hard, and so the spat will, when we put the shell out, the spat falls on the hard shell, and that's
Right,
what the culture is.
and that's what that part of the budget's for. Right. Did you have a question? Sorry,
Yeah,
Joe.
how's the boat and motor holding up?
Pretty well. The boat is fine. I mean, the motor's a little finicky these days,
Okay.
and it's getting up there in age, so.
Okay.
And the boat's a little bit underpowered, and you get a growth on the bottom of the boat, and it's really have to give it a lot of throttle to
Okay,
Yeah.
get it moving along.
okay.
And then there'll be two warrant articles, right, that we'll be seeing. One for 8,000, and that's for the initial salary during FY19 for this person, and then the other will be in the budget here, as we're seeing, for FY20.
Yeah.
It is here. And then we'll have a second one, which is for the one-time thing for startup supplies, right, $18,000.
And if you read the notes, that will not be through any tax money or free cash. The selectmen concurred, but I talked to DOR and they feel it needs an appropriation. And we're gonna pay for it with the money that the county turned over to us last year
Doggone.
from
License
license
plates.
plate money that they had never spent, which had to be spent for economic development and tourism. It was felt that
What's this?
has both
This
a
is it.
recreational and a commercial aspect to maintaining, in that we could pay for all the initial supplies, the one-time startup supplies. The amount of money we got was $18,675, and we're looking at needing $18,500.
What a coincidence.
That's pretty good.
Perfect.
So what's the procedure for that, and what, the timing?
The county gave it to us, it's held in a reserve for appropriation account. So it does have to be a warrant article, it does have to be voted, but instead of voted from raise and appropriator, it's to be voted out of this reserve fund.
Okay. Great. That's good news. All around.
Well, I just want to highlight something primarily for the camera because, and I'm not a fisherman, but I have an appreciation for the need for this. And I have no objections, but I think everybody who's watching should understand that we're going from a budget of about $10,000 to over 35. And from everything I've heard, personally, it's all valid, warranted, I have no complaints. But it's a significant jump with good reason. And, you know, the voters should know why. I don't think that kind of detail may not come up at town meeting, so.
Right.
I just want to think, I was always surprised when they were talking about cages and equipment, and we haven't bought any ever, so I don't know where these have been coming from that they've been used.
The town of Chomark.
Doesn't come from
They're coming
Sean.
from, Showmark has a $143,000 budget.
I get it from Isaiah every year.
No, it's a good thing. It's a good initiative.
yeah, we also want to have a storage container. We're gonna have probably the number one fire station to
Right.
hold a lot of the equipment.
Equipment, yeah.
That they're gonna be using, so
Right.
that's a big expense.
So, looking forward, and I understand this is an estimate, even at this big increase, it's still a bit of an estimate. Is it anticipated that there's not gonna be a dramatic change again next year, or is that a possibility?
No, I mean, these cages last for a long time, the
Okay.
bags.
Well, I'm thinking about
if they're
payroll
stored.
also.
No, I think this is the first step. Get somebody on the job. We'll
Okay.
see how it goes. There may be some changes next year, but nothing big, I don't anticipate.
Just one thing.
One-
Go ahead.
One more question. The warrant article for a laborer at $8,000, is that a one-time thing?
That's just for this year.
Just for this
They
year?
wanted to start this year
Just
before
before.
June 1st, before July 1st.
That's
Okay.
just to cover his salary to
Okay.
that point.
Oh, and then okay,
Then
I
it
get it.
comes into the budget here.
I misunderstood. Thank you.
Just to Doug's point on the future, the current position at 20 weeks at 40 hours a week averages to 15 hours a week year-round. you're close to having it become a benefited position at 20 hours a week for 52 weeks. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah,
as
oh,
you-
yeah, no, we talked about that, absolutely.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Great.
This has got the potential down the road, if it takes off, to be a money maker for the town, correct?
Yeah, they harvest $50,000-$60,000 worth of oysters every year, so yeah,
In the good
big
years.
resource.
The town is harvesting them?
No,
No.
But
private
people-
Individuals.
Commercially.
Maybe a few more recreation.
Okay, no, I just wanted to be
No,
clear.
not the town, no, no,
I
no.
wanted to be clear that what,
It's a benefit to
when,
the town, yeah.
right,
Sure.
The island economy.
Right.
I'm no objection, I'm
No,
just
we're not-
clarifying.
We're not in the oyster.
Jane, any questions? Greg, we okay?
I'm all set.
All set? Ray, thanks for coming in. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Ray.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that's
Ken.
it. We're an easy group.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here we go.
3 months.
3 months?
Take the cover off.
Yeah. I'll have it ready.
Who's next?
Hey, Manny. Welcome back.
Good morning, is that what you
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. We're a little early, if you don't mind.
No.
We'll get you out of here early. Okay, so this will be budget number 220, the fire department. Thanks for coming in. I know my colleagues had some questions. I had only one question for you, maybe two, but the first one is about the 5240 that you were explaining some of the costs are incurred here. Part of it is stickers for the trucks because they can't be inspected here on island. They have to-
No, what they do, we have a company come down and they go in the station, set up cameras on both ends of the building.
Okay,
Then they have to jack up the trucks.
Okay.
It's just outrageous now.
okay, so they're not going off island?
No,
They come here?
they come here.
Okay,
We try to get it so, set up so all the towns do it. They come over once. It may take them 2 or 3 days to do all the trucks, but,
yep, that was my second question.
yeah. And they do the same thing for the pump test. We try to get everybody to do it at the same time. And, you know, like I said, that's $1,000 a truck,
Right,
just to
right.
do the pump test.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Manny, I noticed you have 9,000 in income from fees every year for the last 4 years.
Yeah, it's been somewhere around.
Is there any way to increase your,
State law says $50.
oh, there you go. Thank you. There's one thing I want to ask you.
The only thing that we could increase would be burning permits. I don't charge for burning permits.
Yeah.
For what?
How
Burning
many of
permits,
those, how many of
burning
those do you
permits.
get though? Is it worthwhile? No, what do you get, 3
It's
dozen?
just like a favor for the people.
Yeah, yeah.
So they don't have to take it to
They
the.
pay their taxes.
That's right.
Last year, we had a $400,000 override, and part of that override was repaving your lot over on Edgerton Road
Right.
for $75,000. And that hasn't been done yet. Are you planning to do it before the end of this year?
Yes.
Good.
We didn't do it last year because the weather got changed and I told them not to do it in cold weather.
Right. Okay, so it will get done this fiscal, you think, before the summer? Good. That's the only thing I have.
So, I'm gonna bring up my pet peeve, which is that, and I should explain to everybody that I have no peeves with the fire department at all. But, your department typically returns $20,000 to $30,000 every year in what amounts to excess funds from, personal services. Because you're budgeting for all the volunteers, for everybody, and correct me if I'm wrong, for everybody to show up to every single training event. And historically, and that goes back at least 3 years that I'm aware of, that there's been an excess on the budget of about $25,000 because not everybody shows up to every event year over year. And my question is, because, you know, between the overrides and the other issues that we face, is there any way we can reduce the $157,000 that you're allocating for that by 15 or 20,000, since we know it's almost certainly not going to be needed?
Personally, I say no. I like to have the money there case things do happen, or I get new members, and I don't have to come back to you people for a transfer. And, so, that's my own opinion. And I might come back this year for a transfer because of the, generator at Station 2 is gone. Jen can tell you more about what's going on with that.
Yeah, she mentioned that in our prior meeting. I'm only speaking for me in this, at this moment, but I would prefer to reduce this by 20K, and if you need it, come back for a transfer. It's certainly not gonna get denied.
Personally, I don't believe you should run a budget that way. If you're gonna run a budget, you run a budget the way it should be for the number of people that you have. You shouldn't reduce it and come back to you people for more money. That's my opinion.
I should keep going.
No, that's fine.
I mean, we disagree. I mean, and I've done this with other budgets. If there's year-over-year figures that are lower, then let's get the current year a little closer to the historical number. And it has nothing to do with the fire department particularly.
No, I know you.
So, we haven't come to consensus on this, but that's my feeling.
I want to point out to that too, that it gets released a little bit in that if it's consistent that way, our policy has been to apply free cash, almost all free cash, towards the next year's budget.
Right.
Any unexpended funds have gone into the free cash as of July 1st, and we are going to be using it to offset the budget this year.
But I think 2 years ago, I did reduce it. I took 5 people off the payroll.
Yeah.
2017 was significantly lower, the actual. Anyway.
Yeah, because I took 5 people off, so it dropped.
So,
Please.
to Bruce's point, given the nature of the recent budgets being so tight and so
Yes.
close,
Yeah. It's not
to
the
the
best way to
override.
budget, but it is the practical effect
understand.
of recent trends.
I understand. I mean, if we had more slack, I wouldn't be as picky.
That's a different way to getting the same end, basically. Greg, do you have
I
any
have no questions.
Jane, did you have any?
I have one
Chuck,
suggestion.
please.
Jen and Manny, as different town buildings need generators, with the technology, I've been looking at this in another town, with the technology we have now with electric and battery storage of energy, there are ways, an alternative to a propane generator, there are ways of putting in batteries, and you can either tie it into the grid and charge them when the power rates from the grid are the lowest, when demand is the lowest, and charge them up through the grid or through solar panels, or both.
I don't think at Station 2 we can do that, just because we're using so much power. We couldn't go with LP gas generator at that place. They told me, when I looked it up, they had to stay with oil for the BTUs. So
Because a tank of gas will get burned up in 2 days.
Yeah, the other side of it is that once the battery drains out, you've got nothing. And if it's an emergency services.
For a long period of time.
Yeah, the
If it
other,
was for a long period of time.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we get hit with some storm and we're out for,
you gotta remember that building's
A
got
week.
five people, 5 units in it. The fire, police,
sure,
EMS,
no, without a doubt.
emergency
I'm just saying,
management,
look at it.
and the dog officer are all in the same building,
Right.
you know, so.
Thanks.
Does
I
the
like
dog
the new
officer put it over the edge?
Yeah, just a little.
We'll tell Tony that.
I like the new truck, by the way, man.
No, it came out nice, it really.
Nice, it really did.
So we're all good?
I'm all good, yeah.
You guys good? Okay, thanks, Manny.
Thank
you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you,
Thanks
sir.
for your time. Okay,
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
we are way ahead of our schedule, so if I
Make some
could
phone calls from
suggest.
some more people?
Yeah, right. If we could go through the budgets for the departments that weren't called in, we'll take up where we left off last night.
We finished up.
Finished.
No, we did not.
Except
No.
We were
County
close.
We did not finish.
close.
We did not finish. We had amendments to the 900
Thanks,
series.
man.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
Thanks,
but
Manny.
we haven't done
Looks like
it.
he added some too.
I'm
Anyway.
picking up what you're putting down, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we left off at 7:52, so we'll start with we have 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, all of which are related to things like insurance, retirement, workman's comp. Now, we got amended sheets on Tuesday from Kathy. I presume you all had a chance to look at them. So, unless there's some objections,
I would make a motion to preliminarily recommend all these budgets at once.
Which
and
one?
for the record,
9/11 through 9/16.
and I'll just read those off for the
Yeah.
record, okay? That's 9/11 is county retirement, 9/12 is workers' comp, 9/13 is mass unemployment, 9/14 is health insurance, 9/15 is life insurance, and 9/16 is Medicare tax.
We also have public officials and.
I'll do those, yeah, I'll do
Oh, yeah,
those
yeah.
separately on the
What's
thing.
that?
Just, well, I guess at 9:45 we can include as well, public officials, liability insurance. You've moved?
I have.
Greg second, so it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Shivani, those were all unanimous there. The other thing that was hanging was the town moderator position, and we had received the amended budget along with the justification for it from Bruce that had been sent over by Dan. The first question was, does anyone feel a need to have Dan in to discuss that, or are we comfortable with what we got?
I don't.
I don't.
I'm fine.
Okay, and I am as well. So if that's the case, can I have a motion for the preliminary recommendation to approve?
Did we not actually get a new sheet on that?
We did.
We did.
It was in Bruce's.
It was in the
Well, it
email.
was just the,
Summary.
there's no sheet that looks like that sheet. So there's just, I mean, it's a new line item, it'll be added to that sheet.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Just to add, there was an email.
Yes.
Oh, I said
Yes,
you-
It was added
yes,
It's like
I sent it to
$500.
everybody.
to this one, the two-page vertical
Right.
that Bruce sent us.
Okay.
Your two-page vertical.
So it's
Up here.
now a total of 2,040?
It's whatever 500 more is, whatever the total is.
It's a grand,
5305.
500 for the legal line.
1670. No, town moderator expenses, and then 370, so 2,040, I think.
Okay.
Salary,
Skip.
expenses, and legal.
I read this narrative, I think Bruce or somebody, it just seemed, when you look at these budgets, as you look out, that's the annual operating expense for that particular budget for that year.
Right.
But he makes reference that will need it very seldom. So I don't know why it would be part of an annual operating expense budget, whereas the selectmen have, I think, most of the legal money for all the departments. Or if he truly had a unique situation where he needed to go, he could come to you for a transfer. It just seemed, a little bit-
Right.
it's a small amount of money, but
I think I had a conversation with Dan,
Oh,
in
okay.
fact, about it, and part of the problem was he did request access to legal funds for a certain issue, and he was denied that. And so I think he felt that to just have a degree of autonomy, he needed that small amount of money to be able to cover his
but
expenses.
then to me, you can always come to you for it. Just, the only thing, it wasn't gonna be an annual expense, he said very rarely, or it just seemed odd you'd build something into an annual budget you're not gonna use on a regular basis.
2 meetings a year.
We could revisit it.
It was his word.
I'd try it and see if he spends it. For your-
We can always go back and reduce it, but I think the point is, I think he feels that he has to have some sense of
Yeah.
certainty that when he feels he needs to call upon some kind of legal guidance, that he in fact will be able to get that, and he doesn't want to be
Yeah.
denied it when he needs it. And I can understand that. I mean, the integrity of that process rests on his being able to do his job properly.
that part, it's just that.
Yeah.
He wasn't gonna need it every year.
I think we try for a year and see what happens.
Doug, you've spoken with
take
Dan
that
as
as
well. I
selectness.
mean, did I-
Nothing
did I
different
miss-
from what you
Did I
had.
misstate that?
No, that's what I heard.
Okay.
Can we lower your budget, Skip?
Okay, can I have,
He's a lot lower.
okay, then can I have a motion for the preliminary?
Motion to
recommendation?
preliminarily approve recommend the moderator's budget
I'll
at
second it.
2,040.
No, add the
Greg?
auto 3 lines up.
Greg seconds?
I did.
That- All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah,
Okay,
you're right.
so that's
It's
5-0. The only other budget that, outside the ones that are gonna come before us tonight and the rest from next week, is the MV Shellfish Group. Now, you, Doug, I think I sent that to you,
Yeah.
and maybe everyone else. Do we feel the need to ask them to come in to discuss it, or are you comfortable with the answers you got?
Well, let's talk about what the answers are, since, and then, I don't wanna unilaterally decide that we don't need to speak with them.
They had a pretty good write-up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did have a pretty good write-up. The write-up we got initially was on the production side, telling about all the good things they're doing, but it didn't reference the budget. So I asked specifically about 3 lines that had significant changes. Rick Carney's salary went down about 13,000.
He's retired.
Chris Edwards' salary went up about 14,000. And building maintenance went up 10,000. So, with all of that, the overall budget increased $7,000, which is not huge in a almost $400,000 budget. But there was no explanation. The explanation was Rick Carney is retired, thus the reduced salary. Chris Edwards is filling in, or I shouldn't say filling in, he's filling the gap that's been created by Rick's retirement. So that's that increase. And the building maintenance, building is over 40 years old, has shown signs of aging. And without going into a lot of detail, they decided to move ahead with some major maintenance projects. Much of the infrastructure is pretty old. So it's all justified, it's just that there was no explanation.
Right.
I personally don't think we need to go any deeper into it,
Okay.
but that's just me.
Chuck, you comfortable
I'm
with that?
okay, yeah.
I'm good with it,
Right,
Gary.
Jane? Okay, if we're okay with that, can I have a motion for a temporary motion to recommend
I'll move to
preliminary?
preliminarily recommend the Shellfish Group budget.
Second. Jane seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. And I think that is it for the ones that we have.
Want to go to Greg Zanner report?
Annual report?
Maybe, Greg's thing, if we have
That's
time.
already been submitted.
Oh, good,
Yep.
good.
All right, well,
Do we want to adjourn the camera and wait till,
what time have we had?
4:35,
What time is,
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
Well, go out and have a,
Yeah, can I have
Go get a beer
Can I
and-
have a motion to momentarily adjourn, a brief adjournment?
Declare a recess.
Declare a recess.
Oh, you do.
Okay. Well, I declare a recess in that case.
Go outside and play.
For a short recess, we are now going to be looking at budget number 421. That's the highway superintendent's budget.
21, 22, and 23.
We're going to do those as well, but we'll do them one at a time, right? So we're going to do 421 first. She only had one question, actually, on the thing, and I understand we're raising this annually to bring it up to a certain level so we get to a salary that's commensurate with other towns in what the salary is for the position. What is the ultimate salary going to be? Do we have a clear idea what that number is?
No. But
we have a fuzzy idea.
we have a fuzzy, idea. A lot more than what we're paying this person now, substantially.
Right, but is it, what will be the salary compared to other towns, I guess is what I'm asking. How many will we be doing like this?
Eventually, we're gonna have, this year, we just did the fire chief, we did a job description, had that all worked out, compared to the other towns. This one's, we're working on next, actually, because these two fine, outstanding leaders in the departments, the fire chief and Mr. Wilson here.
right,
As far as we're concerned, I'm concerned, they can keep their jobs for as long as they like, but there is gonna be a point we're gonna have to replace both of them in the near future.
Understood, yeah.
And unfortunately, when we go to replace it, we're gonna paying people more than what they're presently making. And to me, we're trying to lower that insult by a little bit by bringing these salaries up to somewhere where the replacement might be. And I don't know, what's it, 35, 37, what's it?
42,
42,000.
35 last year.
Yeah, I got it. We voted 2 years ago, every year we went up $7,500 just to
Right.
keep this going. We might have sold it, probably 60, 70,000, but I really make a guess, not, don't, you know, just.
No, I mean, I don't think it's a question we have any problem with that. It's just a question, I mean, out of curiosity, we just want to know what will that ultimate salary
And
be?
after a couple of years, we may stop adding the 7,500 because, okay, that's close enough, there may be some minor adjustments. The first year it goes to a full-time benefited position. But truly, it'd be an insult if we had to pay somebody twice as much as the present person's.
Right.
No,
making
but
for-
it's a good question. I mean, we, as we get closer to it, we might investigate.
Well, what we-
I've got another town.
I mean, what we did with the fire chief was we solicited job descriptions from other similar towns, both on and off the island. And that job will be actually a contract position, not a personnel bylaw position. But we know what the other fire chiefs make on the island, so we have a metric there for that. And then with the highway superintendent job description, the next thing we've done is started to solicit job descriptions. That's what I've been working on from other towns that are similar in scope and size to ours for highway type things. We'll work to create a job description that makes sense. Richie will review it, the board will review it, and then it will go to the personnel board for grading. And then we know where it lives on the classification scale. And so there's your answer. Once it gets graded and put on the classification scale, we know exactly what it will be. But that, because it's not happening this year, and we can only do so many things at a time, that is the next thing to do, is on hold right this minute while I'm trying to do all the other things for town meeting. But then it will float back to the surface.
Okay.
I'm hoping to actually have it done by the time the consultant is hired, because as long as the consultant's gonna come in and look at job descriptions, I'd like to have this one graded by them, because why not take advantage of them? So my goal is to have it done by the time we get that in progress, so we can get that done.
Yep. That's good. I didn't have any, Chuck, do you have any questions about this?
No, I have another town's itemized budget, and you can use that as reference if you want.
Can I ask a follow-up question to Jen's comment, which has nothing to
Please.
do with Richie? What is the decision-making process that says any particular position, you've said fire chief, and I know our police chief as well, is contract versus payroll?
So it's a two-step thing. One, state law only allows certain positions to be contracted, so there's only a set number of positions by law that can be a contracted position. And the Board of Selectmen discussed it and looked at what other towns are doing. And on the island, I did not go further afield because I frankly presume that where the island goes, the others go. All of the fire chiefs on the island are contract positions. So in keeping with what's done here on Martha's Vineyard, and I guarantee you off island, it's a contract position. And police chiefs are essentially always contract positions.
What's the advantage?
Advantage? I don't know if there's an advantage.
There's gotta be a reason to do it rather than have them on payroll.
Town doesn't get to vote their salary.
Showmarks is hourly, benefited, okay.
Town doesn't get to vote their salary.
Well, of course they do, because they can vote the budget down.
Yeah.
That doesn't, no, that doesn't invalidate the contract.
Jane, do you have any questions? Greg? Any other questions on that budget?
Not
We
that
have
budget.
this one, just this one, okay. The next one we'll be doing is number 422, which is the highway department budget.
So, hi, Rich. Department has increased the amount of mowing, roadside and ground maintenance it performs in-house instead of utilizing more costly outside contractors. So the immediate question that comes up is, what did we used to spend versus what are we now spending? And how does it compare? And I don't, I don't need exact dollars.
I
but
actually
if-
I have the exact dollars, and I believe I grabbed the wrong folder, because I knew you were gonna ask that. And it's on my desk, I can email it to you tomorrow. However, we've done the math on hiring someone and the cost and what we were paying for outside consulting. And I'm very sorry, because I picked up the wrong folder. But we did that math. We know exactly what that answer is, and I can have it for you tomorrow, but it works. It works well on paper, actually. I don't think I have it. I could even run back to my office.
We're talking less.
If it
So we
was,
chose the lesser option.
it is less, but I wanna say it was less by $8,000, but I can't say that with 100% certainty. I feel like it was $8,000.
Does that calculation include benefits?
They don't get benefits because it's a seasonal position. It's a summer position.
Good thing.
Okay, good.
Chuck?
Yeah. Richie, roughly, do you know how many miles of roads do we have?
14.
14, do you know how many they have just west of us?
Close to the same.
Close to the same? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not 100%, but
Okay.
it's a little less.
Because our current budget, and I know you're
Our?
working West Tisbury's proposed budget is 22% higher than our neighbors, but that's because we have a big, significant discrepancy in your salary versus theirs. However, we're still 22% more than them, and I guess it's okay, I guess, but maybe that's what gets to Doug's thing. Is it more efficient to have staff versus not?
Oh, I
Because
see
there's
what
only
you're
2
saying.
people up there.
Yeah. How many staff you up to now?
2, myself and 2 others.
Plus the seasonal?
We haven't got the seasonal yet.
Yeah, okay.
Part of the reason is other departments are asking us to do more and more, so we're pretty spread out. We're not doing what we want to do on the roads.
Right.
So other departments are asking you to do stuff that they used to do themselves, or they just didn't do?
Well, everything's growing, the maintenance of buildings and,
Yeah.
and the buildings are larger and they need more work, they need more help, and they don't sub out to themselves.
There's a lot of stuff that really isn't, some stuff isn't really highway work and they're all,
Public Works?
it makes sense, right, it actually is turning more, like picking up dumping our trash is not a highway job, but it makes sense
Right.
to
Well, it is if it's along the
use
highway.
laborers that are available
We do
instead
all
of
the
hiring.
buildings
Yeah.
also.
I'm kidding.
That's where I put my trash.
Bruce,
That's where
this is actually a question for you. I'm just trying to figure out which, it's not a problem with this, I'm just trying to clarify which is which. We have 2 highway
No.
workers seasonal.
It's an
What-
it's an
are the dates- are the
18-week
dates right
position,
here?
but since it's seasonal, if you look at the period that starts July 1st and go to June 30th, the person will be working until September, middle to end of September, and then will be maybe the same person rehired in May of the next year. So it's 18 weeks, and at that point, if it's the same person coming back, they'll have a step increase.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
to calculate the wages
gotcha.
necessary, it's
Gotcha.
broken into those 2 different
Okay.
segments.
You're so
Gotcha.
good.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
And
great.
actually, there is a separate warrant article to actually have the person start before July 1st this year out of free cash.
Good.
Just like we did with
that'll
the
be there for
shellfish
season.
agent.
Okay,
Good.
yeah, that's clear. And a small question, it's small potatoes really, but, the price, the cost of the vehicular supplies has gone up a fair amount. You mentioned that in the narrative. What are the additional costs we're incurring on equipment and supplies? We've gone from 4,800 to 6,500. I mean, it's not a big increase, but I wondered what.
That's vehicular supplies.
Yeah, that's
There's a
right.
It's
couple of
mostly
other-
gas,
Yeah.
and
What's that?
it's mostly gas, and I think it's adjusting a little bit to having both vehicles. The highway truck, the bigger new truck, came in at the beginning of FY
Which is diesel.
18, and when we were doing the budget for FY 19, we didn't have
History.
full year of use of that truck, and so I think this year is actually a little higher.
Reflects that better.
Will be a little higher than was budgeted. and we'll have to work it within line items.
Okay.
When we sat down together and looked at the monthly amount of fuel, and then added on to that our gas for mowers and cans.
Gotcha. Doug?
This may be a superfluous question as I'm thinking about it. The solar system out at the old dump, at the old landfill, more than covers our electric, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I was gonna ask about solar because that's the roof on the new
Right,
building.
but we also
you don't need it.
understand, Doug, that as our electricity use grows,
Yeah,
we cannot take more. Because when we built them, contract, whatever we.
Right, we
have to agree
contracted
a certain
some of it
amount,
out.
And then there are other towns that have an agreement to buy the rest.
okay,
So,
okay.
so
So-
what we have as an agreement is what we have.
So then using the highway barn roof might be an option if we need more electric? To put solar up there?
Well, I don't know structurally if we can, and
I do, we do.
B, I.
That was a question we asked when we built it.
Actually, with the slight additions we've made to some buildings, we actually have a little more need. And if you had a building like that one and had a solar array on it, we could rededicate that allotment we're putting towards that building back to the old courthouse road building or another town building. It's a balancing act to try to level it out so you don't get too many net metering credits on one account.
No, I understand, and it's certainly not a today
There is a
issue.
potential that something like that could have a benefit,
Yeah,
upon the cost.
and if you filled that roof with solar, that building would hardly use it, but the police station and the fire station could make use of it. So it's just something to think about.
Richie, I had one question for you. I mean, general, you've got the historical look backward of what we've done in this town, how the department's grown and to where we are now. I mean, if you can look forward like 5 years or so, what changes do you see coming to the highway department?
Well, as long as it remains the same and it's not DPW or DPU, I don't see a big difference, you know. The extra man, it may end up being a full-time position at some point.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's really not, you know, the roads aren't growing, as long as we don't accept any more roads.
Except what?
Accept any more roads.
Yeah.
The roads aren't getting any longer, you know.
No.
Well, what would be the trigger to convert to a Department of Public Works, and what would be entailed in that?
It's size, isn't it?
No. Water
No.
company.
I mean,
Jen?
certainly from my perspective, the trigger would be, in my mind, where we are contracting out on a regular basis work in all of our buildings that a Department of Public Works could handle. So at some point, if we brought someone in full-time, so we have 3 people, and in that department, they could handle more of the public works aspects that this town contracts out here and there, and hire this person to do for a small amount and that person to do for a small amount. And it might at some point become more efficient and economical to have that third person and be this Department of Public Works that is, you know, sort of our facilities team as well as the highway team is what I would envision the trigger to be. And I actually think that's probably the direction we will end up going, because these buildings, they take a lot. And so I can envision that happening. Is it gonna happen next year? No, but I could see that coming down the road.
When you say work, is it custodial duties that we're talking
Custodial
about?
and
or-
small repairs
Okay.
and things like that, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I will say, from my perspective, to keep the budget tight, I have the custodial services I have. I don't think it's enough. I don't think my building is clean enough. I don't think that we have, I don't think it's maintained in a custodial way, the way I would like it to be, but it adds up. And so I'm not adding days, and we make do the way we do, but, you know, eventually, I think we're gonna wanna have more.
Going back to what you said, if that does happen, I don't know if the total of 4 people are enough. You know,
All right.
when it gets to that point.
Yeah.
Well, and there again, we do the cost benefit, right, of what we're spending. Am I correct that we have 6 or 7 buildings without the school? School covers itself, right, in its budget? There's 4 here.
We have 6, plus we own the Mill Pond Building and the Field Gallery, and currently the Red House, so.
Old courthouse room.
And,
The old courthouse.
Oh.
of course, but yeah, but we won't have that for
In the
long,
public
so-
safety complex, I don't know if you consider that 3 buildings.
That's consideed 3?
I don't know.
I don't know.
You
Public
got the
safety
fire,
has-
the police, the highway.
I would consider it 2 buildings,
So
but
Okay.
So, 2, 3,
2,
4,
6.
5, 6.
Chuck, you had a question?
Yeah, I want to come back to the highway department. I don't have any problems with your budget. The big expense in highways is when we get that paving machine out. And was it 300,000 a mile or something like that? I noticed somewhere you wanted to repave Indian Hill Road. Did I see that somewhere?
They're partial, yeah.
How much are you estimating that'll be? Is that in this next year?
I may want to do a section at a time.
Yeah,
I have a large problem Ken and I have been working on. One section needs drainage
yep,
badly.
yep.
I have prices for each one that I want to do,
Yeah.
each section that I want to do, but I do not have anything for,
Because I remember in
Drainage.
2005, we had a significant paving job of over 2 million.
you know,
And we bonded that. And then I noticed in Bruce's historical warrant article, we have a paving warrant article from 2012 for 52,000 and only 7,000 was spent. So we still have money there
we have.
if you need it. And I was wondering,
That's left over from the last bonding.
Right.
that's left over from the 2.2 million?
I think it was after that. When did we bond last? It was like 2000. What year did you
That
think it
was-
was?
2005 was the big one.
The first time was a million.
No.
No, we had another big one in 2 years later after
The
that.
most recent 2 million was,
3 years ago?
yeah, 3 or 4
Yeah.
years ago.
All right.
And
So
that's what's left over from that can still be used for an assigned road.
that's what I want to know.
Except for
'cause-
one road that was at that town meeting said, we don't want this road paved, and it was in the article, so we can't use it for
Old courthouse road.
Old Courthouse Road.
No new paving, because then we have to repave it. Okay, so that money is available for what you want to do on Indian Hill?
Yeah,
as
he had a
well?
small little patchwork
Yeah.
on paving project
So you're not
recently.
anticipating a warrant article for Indian Hill this year, or no?
He's got 464,000 of chapter 90 money,
Uh-huh.
plus about 50,000 left over in that.
So we won't need to raise and appropriate anymore?
There's no
There's
articles
no
on the
article.
warrant.
There's no article.
Okay.
Good, that's what I'm trying to
Yes,
ask.
there are
Thank
none.
you.
If I did, I actually have 3 areas that
Yeah.
in the future are gonna need asphalt. If I did all 3 of those, I certainly don't have enough money, as you
Yeah,
know. It's,
okay.
you know, but-
Thanks for spreading it out. I know you try to do it as most economically as you
Greg,
can.
please.
What are you gonna do with Richie retired?
Richie, I'm noticing a lot more traffic on the roads year round. Are you seeing that on your end, and is it going to, flavor your planning in the future?
The biggest problem are the heavy trucks, of course. But as far as vehicle traffic, I don't think it's a big problem, you know. Yeah.
And I guess there's no real warrant. There will be an article that will affect your department, however, if it goes into effect, and this is from the income, the revenue that we derive from the housing, the rental property excise tax. That could add pretty significantly, I would think, if it goes through and it is approved by the voters at 30% of whatever that amount is, and I don't know at this point, we know
The
what it will be.
estimations for
I've done
that were about $1 million if 6% is passed, and if the assumptions made by the commission are correct, which are as reasonable a way to approach it as any other,
Mhm.
the estimation is $1 million. So 30% of that would go into, if this were to pass, 30% of that would go into a stabilization fund for road maintenance.
For the paving,
Good.
paving
It's a
mostly.
good use.
That's annual.
That's a nice,
And that would be annual.
And the capital improvements committee, which I'm on, we have a highway stabilization fund already
Right.
with nothing going into it. And it's on our long-term plan to try to put money into it,
Yeah.
but with budget so tight, it's the thing that gets cut.
Yeah.
that would be a nice boost to your budget for that.
I did get a schedule, which we'll talk about at our meeting that's specially scheduled. At 6%, West Tisbury's estimated to get 1.2 million. And when we get to,
That's ours.
when we get to the, when we get to the school budgets, if the high school, new high school comes, that'll add $1 million a year, right there, to our school assessment for the high school and the new athletic fields. So that is another good suggested use for that non-tax raised revenue.
Oh, that'll be it.
Yeah, so
Another
that-
discussion.
Just as long as it came up, I wanted to throw that out there as another
Right.
alternative.
Jane, do you have any questions? Good. Greg, any more for them?
Nope.
Richie, thanks for taking the time.
Thank
to
you
come
so
in.
much.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
No question on snow and ice?
Oh, sorry about that. Snow and ice, yeah.
Maybe we'll
Actually,
save some
Don't
this
look at
year.
this year.
It's listed only because you were here anyway. I don't have any questions about snow and ice personally. Do you?
That's a crap.
No, I'm,
No, thanks. I think we're fine. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Happy birthday, Richard.
Yes, Richard.
Oh,
Hey, nice.
Birthday, what a way to spend your birthday.
What a present, huh?
This the best one you ever had?
The bad thing is he's about to take out a vacation. Whenever he goes on vacation, we get a snowstorm.
Oh, Pat, bring him back. Don't let him go. Eric, how
What
are
are you
you?
doing here? Oh, Park and Rec. Oh, Board of Health.
Board of Health.
Oh, it's your wife is Park and Rec.
Okay, you're just in time. You're just in time. We're all set for you.
Yeah, I'll wait, everyone.
Omar, you've got the floor. Budget number 510 is what we'll be looking at, which is the Board of Health. Thanks, Omar, for coming in. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, let me look at my cheat sheet here. We're looking at 510. Chuck?
Yeah.
You had a question.
I just,
Let me ask one more before we start.
Sure.
Since you're here, is there anything you want to highlight in your budget or things, I see these sessions both for us to look at the budget, but it's also an opportunity, frankly, because you've got people that actually watch these meetings. Hard to believe, but they do. So if there are points you want to make, feel free to raise them, just so people in the town know what's going on and what the sort of things you're looking at, and trends or projects you see come down the road, whatever. And so I'll give you the floor.
Okay. First of all, I want to just thank you for allowing me to have my administrative assistant from last year. She's been a big help and has made my job a lot easier.
Good.
So I appreciate that. I did bring some information in regards to revenues, which I believe you'll probably have some questions on. In general, things are just growing in a lot of different areas. I don't anticipate anything substantial, in any particular areas. Just steady growth, in the construction areas, and we expect to gain some revenue from those applications and permits. But nothing in particular, no trends or anything. I can tell you that the state, in regards to water testing, they're starting to require a little bit more testing, so things might increase in those particular areas.
These are public systems or?
Yes, for the
private?
public water systems, the 3 public water systems that I overlook.
Right.
3?
Yes, the school, library, and the town hall. So I do see some growth in those areas. Just state requirements, just in terms of the number of testing, things of that nature.
Are you required to do testing for areas or facilities that are used for the public, for example, the library? I don't know, are they on the same water system? I think they are, as the town hall. right?
Yes, I test the library as well. That's one of the public water systems that I oversee.
Right.
State
What about
regulated.
privately owned facilities or institutions that have to cater to the public? Do they have to have their water tested? Or is
They
that-
do,
Uh-huh.
but they appoint their own operators for that.
Okay,
If there's non-compliance, I usually receive information on that and make sure that they take care of, whatever the state is requiring.
Chuck?
I just have a question for Gary and Omar.
Me?
No, that one.
Eric?
Eric?
Eric, rather. Eric, sorry. He's only my neighbor.
The other
He's only
guy.
my neighbor. I'm asking this of all departments who raise money through fees. And I always use the beaches as an example of how it's really working. The beach department collects 72% of its expenses from selling beach passes. The Board of Health is collecting 44% of its expenses from inspection revenue. Is there an opportunity for you to gradually increase those inspection fees year over year, maybe 5% a year, until we can get that to where the revenue is covering much more of the expenses? And I'm asking that.
I'm glad Omar brought up the bit about the state regulation, because I was gonna, when you were asking about trends, that's the thing I was gonna bring up. It's not the increased, they used to have, other people to do some of these inspections, the beaches and things like that.
But
More
it's separate
regulations
system.
there, there's tobacco regulations, there's all these new regulations that come down the pike. I mean, the Board of Health is, I believe, a little different maybe than just the beach or park and rec, in that we perform other functions for the townspeople that, there's
Yeah.
not maybe a fee always associated with it, but
My duties as they pertain to the beaches, I do some initial water testing in the beginning of the season, but there are no inspections that I really carry out.
I don't care about the beaches, I'm just saying they raise
I'm
through
saying
fees
your point in
70%
terms
of their
of,
expenses.
and I think that the models may be a little different, what they have to do for the beach in terms of what they need to expend and, the Board of Health,
So that's,
But we have raised the fees this past year for the first time in a while. It's partly to help cover the assistant that was needed.
right.
And I don't know, we'll have to see what the trend is
Well-
with just raising the fees.
I have it here. Your revenue in 18 was 29,000, your revenue projected for this year is 44,000, and it's the same for next year. So you made a significant improvement, and the other years aren't itemized. So it seems like the big one is septic system permits. That's 1/4 of all your revenue. So maybe you don't have to do all of them, but the ones that are high volume, maybe consider trying to inch them up to take some of the burden off the taxpayer.
Warren, I guess I've got one question. Are we pretty much on track to hit that $44,000 fee in revenue? I see that's projected for FY19. Do you think we're gonna hit that number?
I think we can. I was just gonna share these with you.
Okay,
I haven't seen these either.
Handout.
we always like that.
I'm good.
Well, Bruce, here's one for you. One's construction, and the other's commercial. It shows 18 in the current year.
Is this a fiscal year or the calendar year?
This is since July. This is
Fiscal year.
So you're about on track.
You guys share.
I believe we are on track.
Two different reports.
Which,
It's a sum of, so it's combined. You have to-
One he said was construction, the other said was commercial.
Oh. One's commercial, one's construction. The one on the top is the current year.
Okay.
The one on the back, the sheet on the back is the previous year.
For the same period of time?
So in short, you've raised almost $34,000 in the first 6 months.
So this is year,
there are two of those, is one of that.
through what date?
Oh, through,
1/9?
In 2018, we're looking at July to our
Okay.
current time.
Current meaning,
Yes.
right now.
And that second sheet shows revenues from the previous year.
For the same period of time.
both handouts.
So it's only up $2,000.
On one, I believe you're looking at commercial.
Which one are we talking about?
There's commercial and construction.
There,
The total should be around,
and
Is this two
fourth.
different-
I do
on the
believe
other.
it should be
Okay, so
about
wait, we're
a little
talking
over
about
$6,000.
Yeah, too many
Right.
people, go ahead, Omar. They're-
I'm just reacting.
I know, but we can't all be talking, otherwise we can't hear.
Okay.
Please. Go ahead. You were trying to explain what we have here.
Yes, so the top sheet you're looking at is from July to our current time, revenues raised
Okay.
during that period.
Okay?
The second sheet in the back is revenues from the previous year.
The whole year, you're
That's
saying.
correct.
So for
So you're
example-
saying this is, in other words, this is half a year, a little over now.
It's a little over half a
Like
year.
7 months.
And the other is the whole of last year.
This is the
So we're
full
already,
fiscal
for
year?
example, on the one sheet here, we're at 19,000.
For half
That
a
is
year,
correct.
And
basically.
it was 15,000 for the entire year of the previous year.
That is correct.
Okay, so we're well above where we, in each,
get it.
on both these sheets. Well, a little bit above on the one sheet, but quite a bit above on the other.
Why don't you-
Did you just say the total is 33,000?
Total, the total.
Explain the difference
The total is
between what you're calling
19,420
construction
plus
plus
14,000.
residential permits and things,
Right.
right, and commercial.
So we have roughly $34,000 to date, and we still have till the end of the year.
That is correct.
Is the 12-month figure or is?
The 12-month figure is
For
the
last
second
year.
sheet.
Okay. that's
And the
what-
first sheet is July to our current period of time.
Understood.
6 months,
Yes.
7 months.
That's a
And
pretty
the
significant.
$19,420 that you're looking at, that is the revenue that we've raised from construction projects, septic systems, wells, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And the other is for food establishments and other businesses that require permits.
Are there more stringent regulations now in place on the health side? I mean, are you seeing quite a bit of change there, or no?
No,
No.
not so much. No.
Pretty stable. Oh, that's encouraging. That's,
12,
It's maybe the only area where they haven't changed much.
good.
Okay, your last name, please.
Okay.
Lowe, Eric Lowe, Eric with a K,
Thank you.
sorry, Eric.
Jane, please.
or Gary, as some people call him.
AKA Gary.
I
I'm
blew
new
that
to the
one.
committee, and I just wonder if you could give me a very brief description of the tick testing that's going on and where you might see that going.
The what, I'm sorry, the what?
Tick testing.
Ah,
The tick testing at this time is being conducted by Dick Johnson.
Yep.
Okay, and he's the individual that, the 6 towns basically allot a certain amount of money to assist him in this particular project. I do know that Dick Johnson has been very successful in raising money from other sources to assist him in this. And, yeah, you know, we do foresee some challenges going forward, you know, in terms of a new type of tick that might be coming to the island. And, you know, I can tell you that going forward, Dick Johnson probably will be seeking more funds to assist him in the tick testing. But right now, there's, you know, he's doing the yard testing. They're still working on different ways to limit or cut down on the amount of deer on the island. That's a huge part of it as well.
And is the Board of Health involved in looking at sort of rates of illness in the island population? Of tick-borne illness?
We do look at those rates, but I'm not so much directly involved in doing anything with those particular numbers. You know, the battle right now is just finding ways where we can cut down on the number of ticks.
Okay.
But we are shared that information.
could I ask you a couple of small questions?
Sure.
Not at all on the critical side, just for clarification. I was curious, the amount you're asking for your admin assistant is less this year than it was, I mean, not by a lot, but it was
About
13.
$300.
By about three, it's not significant, but is that right? I mean, it just seemed curious it would be going down.
Or maybe the numbers got inverted.
Now, I think I may have had a slightly wrong grade in the original budget for this year.
Uh-oh.
So is it gonna be more this year?
So it's a different grade. At the time we did the budget last year, the position was in the process of being classified. And I think I budgeted at grade 3, step 1.
Oh.
And it turned out to be grade 2, so this year's expenses are actually less.
Okay.
The budget's higher than it needed to be this year.
So he wasn't paid the full 13,700, whatever.
Probably would not be
whatever.
paid that much
Okay,
this year.
so that's all, I just was curious about the change. And then I had one question about the, and it's not at all critical, I'm just trying to find out what's going on. This is under professional technical services. There was an uptick, no pun intended, uptick from $4,200 to $8,600 for testing. That's quite a,
But Omar and I sat down.
yeah,
There's been a lot of bills the last couple of years, not sure if they're classified correctly to get on the same wavelength. Some of them have gone to health services, which is supposed to be only for direct services to individual clients. And so we sat down to go over all the payments that are made during the year and where should they go. And so on the previous page with the description, that's the line item I broke down and said individually, these are the things that we are paying. They may have been classified differently. But there's the specific service for water testing, the tick program, the mosquito program.
okay, gotcha.
So we're all on the same page and we know where to budget and pay them.
Right,
And
makes sense.
wanted to give that detail because that was the biggest looking change.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Again, out of curiosity, Island Youth Collaborative, what affiliation does the health department have with them?
Well, I guess you could say in a broad sense that it's public health related. You know, what it's about is that there's a program at the schools where they go into the schools and they work with families that may have a parent that's involved with substances, illegal substances, or a child who might have a substance abuse problem. That is a public health matter, and that is how the Board of Health is involved with
Okay,
it.
Is that the youth task force?
No.
it's a youth collaborative.
Yes.
Islandwide Youth Collaborative is connected to community services.
Got it.
Doug, any more questions?
Yeah, so, I'm in the same camp as Chuck on revenues matching costs. But unlike some other areas, you have, the department has some requirements for instance, the water testing of town wells and things like that, that are, not directly related to income, right? I mean, if I need my septic pumped, I have to get a permit, or the septic guy has to get a permit for my, which of course I end up paying for.
Yes.
So there's a direct relationship, whereas some of the other services you perform don't have that kind of one-to-one relationship to revenue.
We just listed even some of them, these programs.
I understand that,
Yeah.
I understand that. And this may be a better question for Bruce, is there some sense of what portion of the expense side would be there no matter what if we didn't permit all these other things at all?
We haven't really done a study of that. A lot of that would be, the biggest expense is personnel. So
Right.
you'd have to get a
I
breakdown
understand.
of the time, and we've never done a time study to
Okay.
say how much time is spent on these type of duties and how much time is spent on these. So we haven't ever done that sort of process.
Okay. Omar, if you had to guess a percentage of time spent on, either spent on permitted stuff or not spent on permitted, either, I mean, is it 50/50? Is it 10/90, some sense of that?
I would say 60/40.
And
The 60 being on permitted.
Permitted stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Any questions? Jane, any more? Chuck? Doug, you all see? One more, thanks. Very appreciate it.
Thank you very much, thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks for coming
gentlemen.
in.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Eric.
Thank you.
Road looks great, by the way, thank you.
All right, okay.
Thanks for coming.
In that case, we can proceed to go ahead and vote on the budgets that we covered tonight.
Okay.
So we'll start with budget number 298, which is the Shellfish Department. Can I have a motion for a preliminary recommendation to approve?
Preliminary,
Second.
Greg moved, Jane seconded.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Second budget we'll take up is the Fire Department, budget number 220.
Can we talk about that?
Sure. Can I have a motion first? Before you either
Make a
approve?
motion to preliminarily recommend.
Okay, I have a motion to recommend, second.
Second.
Jane seconds. Discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to preliminarily approve it at a slightly lower recommend it at a slightly lower number, based on what I keep harping on about the personnel services always being $20,000 to $30,000 over needed amount.
Propose an amendment to the budget for voting.
So, I agree, but I just, I want to get a sense of whether
Well-
I'm completely crazy or not.
No, I don't think you're crazy, but I do take on board, well, two pieces to it. In a sense, I like to defer to department heads to sort of set their own budgets and handle it the way they think it should be handled. And if there's something critically wrong, I can understand trying to get them to change it, but if they're comfortable with it and there's no downside, really, practically speaking, monetarily, I'm loath to sort of, I take Bruce's point, which is, yes, he may not be using all of those funds, but at the end of the year, they go into the general reserve, and those funds are mostly going to bring down our tax for the following year. So we're not losing anything, it's just getting moved around in a different way, and I personally, I'm loath to gainsay the department chief, if that's the way he thinks he ought to do his business, so.
Okay. So, I think that argument has validity in a year where we have some flexibility. So my question to our town accountant is, do you have any sense yet of how close we are to possibly needing an override?
We're like gonna be okay, but we are right, but we will need to use all free cash to stay safe. But using all the available free cash, we are safe.
Okay.
Well, we have 820,000 warrant articles, and last year we had 575,000.
Yeah, there's like 700,000 of them are raise and appropriate, the warrant articles.
That's the problem. Yeah. We might have more.
The budget's only up
warrant articles.
2.5%, and we're anticipating the schools might come down lower, but there's a lot of warrant articles.
Maybe we
And a
have-
lot of them are.
But you're saying we're safe assumes that we vote in all 700,000 of the warrant articles.
Correct.
So if some get voted down, we're even.
Yeah.
Which is actually a good point, and frankly, one worth making, particularly since we're down towards the end of the budgets for the departments and the public entities. The budget is not significantly greater for these departments and regional entities. It's 2.3%.
Right.
That, we're pretty much on target. That is not bad in terms
It's
of
very
budgeting.
good.
It's quite good budgeting. What I was really struck by in looking at the sheet you put together is where we constantly get blown off course is in the warrant articles.
Right.
That is really where the bulk of the money comes. And that's what puts us in that budget override. It's not these budgets. The budgets are fairly well managed by these departments. That's where the
Sounds like an
problem is.
op-ed to me.
Well, it's why I've been asking about warrant articles from last year, are you gonna spend them? Because they put us over the override last year. And Jen said, yes, she's got plans for it, and that's great. Manny said he's gonna pave his lot before the end of the fiscal, so, yeah, he needed that. So that's where I think we have a lot of leverage, is with warrant articles and possibly unspent warrant articles.
Yeah, opinions on the, we're talking about the fire chief's, fire department budget.
I mean, like you, I'm a little gun shy to second guess Manny's budgeting. I think there may be a little give and take there, but I like to have him be able to roll his own cards, and if we're going to end up getting it at the same place at the end of the year, if he doesn't use it, I'm fine. It's not like $100,000 for
That makes sense to me as well.
Well, the only thing it does do, but to a minuscule degree, is it raises our base budget for next year's 2.5 override. But I think the way to lower that base budget is through warrant articles and not, as Gary said, the budgets are pretty responsible.
They really are.
So maybe we get tougher on warrant articles and scrutinize them.
Yep. Okay, so we had a motion, seconded, discussion. So we'll go to the vote. Anything more to say? No? Okay. Okay, so this is budget number 220, Fire Department. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye, I've been persuaded.
You're voting aye or aye for no? I got you.
Yeah, it's unanimous.
It's unanimous,
You're
5-0.
right. Nice.
Well, I listen when people argue against me.
All right, so the next,
I'm sorry?
You gotta get more like Skipper.
I'll talk to you privately about that.
okay, so we're on to Board of Health, budget number 510. Can I have a motion for preliminary recommendation to approve?
I will make a motion to preliminarily approve, and I'm going to do all three at
Recommend.
once. Recommend, excuse me, thank you, Doug. Recommend budgets 421, 422, and 423.
That's habit.
Ma'am?
That's Highway Department, yep.
Highway Department, yes.
There are three different budgets there. One's for the
Salary.
what are the others?
The department. and then
Technically, it's like
snow and
not a
ice.
Snow and Ice and the Highway Department, there's three.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second.
Jane seconds. Discussion? No? We're all comfortable with that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. And finally, we have Board of Health, and this will be budgets 510 and 522. Okay, that's the Board of Health and Health Services are the two budgets.
I'll make a motion to preliminarily recommend 510 and 522.
Okay, second.
Second.
Chuck seconds. So we have motion and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. So I think we are current.
I think you haven't done 945.
We did, we included it at the last minute.
Did we vote on the people who came in
Okay.
last meeting?
I'm sorry?
Did we vote on the
Yes.
people who
Yes,
came in
Yes,
last
we did.
meeting? Okay.
At the
Shalani,
last
we
meeting.
did include 945, did we not?
Yes, we
Yes,
did.
that was
Okay.
included, yeah. I neglected, then I added it just before the vote. So we're current, that's what we
Nice, well done,
we
sir.
have. So the next meeting will be Tuesday, 4:30 here, and it will be the Up Island Regional School District, the high school, and Regional Housing Authority. And that's it. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Think you can finish that one early?
No.
No.
I don't.
Nope.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you.